The word tov does not appear in the Luchos Rishonos. Tov, Laman Yitav Loch V'harachta Yomim. Tov doesn't appear because, ironically, because there was no struggle. It was a davar pashut to keep the Torah at that time. Even though it was a davar pashut, they seemed somehow managed to build the egel. But in terms, at that moment at least, of Luchos Rishonos, there was such a clear madrega, such a clear hiskalus that it was, and that was the hiskalus of Torah Shel BaPeh. Just comes at you. Whereas we learned the hiskalus of Torah Shel BaPeh is much more pnimi, and that was the madrega of the Luchos Shniyos. I want to share something with you before we go further. Rabbi Tzadok said a page ago, which was a few weeks ago, Rabbi Tzadok taught us that, which many Svarim talk about, in the Esser Sfiros, if you recall, so the Esser Sfiros are Keser, Chachma, Bina, and then Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and that's Achor Yesod Malchus. That's the way the Esser Sfiros work. And that's the Sefer HaYetzirah. Sefer HaYetzirah is Esser, V'loi Tesha, Esser, V'loi Achadas, right? It's very didactic. But there's Esser Sfiros, the first one is Keser. There's a different way of counting, we pointed out, where you remove Keser and you put in Das. Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and that's Achor Yesod Malchus. Okay, so the Baal HaTanya doesn't have license to argue with the Sefer HaYetzirah, and so the pshat is he's not arguing, it's just two sides of one coin. We learned that Keser is Ritzonai HaPashat, and Das is Aratzon, or as you worded it, two types of desire. So there was two, I gave a mashal to this, it's really the same thing, but I gave a mashal to this that you could want, like, I have to get, God forbid, brain surgery. So, do you want to get brain surgery? Does anybody want to get brain surgery? Yeah, it sounds like, well, nobody wants to get brain surgery. Nobody wants to go through that ordeal. But on one level, on the other level, you do want, because it's saving your life. But that's a ratzon which is beyond our pnimius. That's just a ratzon which is a ratzon. Yes, I know I'm supposed to want that, so I want it. If you're not a disciplined person, you say the heck with it and you just die. It's like it's a different style. Ignore your teeth; they go away. So nobody wants to go to the dentist, but you do want, you don't want. And then there's a ratzon apnimi. A ratzon apnimi is something that I really want. I really want ava. I really want love. I really want parnasa. I really want to live in Eretz Yisrael. There's such a thing. There are certain things, even mitzvahs. I believe Eretz Yisrael is one of those mitzvahs which we have internalized. There's a certain, like a natural, as an example, a certain natural Ava to Eretz Yisrael. It's a fascinating thing to me. I'm thinking a lot about it because of, my father had this. Without any education, who talked to the place and told us about Eretz Yisrael. Davar Pashut was like an Ava to Eretz Yisrael, but I was just reading yesterday, somebody emailed me a letter from his grandfather who was in the U.S. military and was stationed in Cairo and hired in 1946, 47, he hired a car to take him from Cairo to Tel Aviv. And this is an American soldier, never went to yeshiva, never went to Jewish guy. I mean, he knew something, a little bit of words there, but like he just describes this letter. I should share this letter with the world. Unbelievable thing. Just a letter type, you can tell it's like gehacked on a typewriter. The old Fat. He talks about how he came into Eretz Yisrael, and just like every step was a schus that he put on, was a schus, and how he put on tefillin in Eretz Yisrael, and wow, Tel Aviv nach, like it was just amazing, and like his ava for Eretz Yisrael. It's like somebody meeting like a long lost girlfriend or something. Wow, it was such an ava, like it is the Shabbat. Nobody has that kind of ava for Shabbos. Anybody have that kind of ava for Kiddush, for any of the mitzvahs on Torah? It's like there's certain, somehow or another. So that's called das. That's an example of das. That's what we learned. So the pasuk we learned together by Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur Lamanta Yehuda. I gave him ruach Elokim, b'chachma b'tuna u'b'das. So Rashi says, if you recall, Chachma B'Tfuna U'B'das B'das Zu Ruach HaKodesh. So Rabbi Tzadok explained that Rashi, which is the pshat in the Rashi, is that Ruach HaKodesh, Das is Ruach HaKodesh. What's the connection between Das and Ruach? Or Das sounds like an intellectual thing. What's the connection between Das and Ruach HaKodesh? Das as opposed to Keser, which is not there in the B'Tzalel ben Uri ben Hur situation, because Keser is L'mala Mimeno. That's the Ratzain HaPashut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why do you create the world? Ein lanu musag. But when the Or Ein Sof goes through, becomes Chachma, and goes in this process by Bina, and then becomes Das, so Das, the Ruach HaKodesh, means it permeates us. So that's us that wants it. So in other words, B'Tzalel, I want to believe that, if I'm permitted to say this, the Moshe Rabbeinu did not have this Das on the Madrega on the Madrega of B'Tzalel. It was too high. Moshe Rabbeinu was no Moed. Moshe Rabbeinu was wearing a mask. Moshe Rabbeinu recognized himself. I can't deal with the cucumber guys and the watermelon people. That's not something I can deal with. Like it's not for me. It was Moshe Rabbeinu. Like it's not for these fellows want to be in Egypt making a watermelon. It is right. It's not right. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't belong in Shuk B'Chad Yehuda. That's not his makom. But he recognized that is a das. That's a kind of a Jew. He recognized. So he says, don't knock them, don't destroy them. So he argues to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just give me some help. I'm not like a father. I can't do this kind of stuff. I'm up on the mountain. That's what I am. I'm up on the mountain. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him 70 people, and they became the cucumber people. They became the Rabbanim for Klal Yisrael, for Amcha. But that was Das. So when it came to B'Tzalel ben Uri ben Hur, there's a certain level of nevuah that Moshe Rabbeinu had that nobody can reach, and there was a certain Radrega of Ruach HaKodesh which Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't reach because they couldn't go so high and he couldn't go so low. So it's an interesting thing, this Ruach HaKodesh. So says Rabbi Tzadok. So I was saying, I was talking late last night, 11:30, 12 o'clock last night, I was talking to a friend of mine, Rosh Hashiva. So he said to me, I said, what do I do? He called to me Menachem Avel, Rosh Hashiva. So I was telling him, we're doing this, we're doing that. It was Rabbi Tzadok. Oh, tell me something from Rabbi Tzadok. So I told him over the Pshat and Das for Rabbi Tzadok. So a typical Rosh Hashiva fashion says, answers the Brisker kasha. So what's the Brisker kasha? The Gemara says in a number of places, the Gemara says that, like for instance, Hashan, Aravos. So the Gemara in Sukkah, I think in Mandala, the Gemara says that Aravos was the minhag in the Bayis Rishon. So how are the Mechadish? Something in the Bayis Rishon, the Gemara says, it was a religion like somebody comes and makes up something new. Let's do something new. We can do something new. That's the Gemara's question. Ein Navi Rashay L'Chadesh Davar Me'ata. From the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, nobody's allowed to make up new mitzvahs, so where do they get the mitzvahs Harava? That's the Gemara answers. The Gemara says, no, they always had the mitzvah Harava. Even B'Tzalel had the mitzvahs Harava, Ela Sheshachom V'chazru V'yastu. That we forgot it, certain things we forgot, and then we came and reconstructed it and got it back. Okay, so we forgot about the mitzvah of Arava, and then in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, let's do Arava. How do you come to this? How do you come to this pilpulistically? How do you come to the mitzvah Arava? So Rashi says in Sukkah Nun Dalet, he says this also, by the way, by the Menat Spach, by the final oisius, the Gemara Megillah, Mem Nun Sadik Peches, that they have a final ois, that these were Nevi'im were Mechadish, for the Beis HaMikdash they were Mechadish, that there's such a thing as an end to pay, but we forgot it, and so Rashi says in 4 places, this Rosh Hashiva told me, in 4 places Rashi says that Chazru V'Yastum, how they come to it, it's like Rashi Baruch HaKodesh. Comes the Brisker Rav, and he says, Baruch HaKodesh. We just said that Ein Navi Rashay L'Chadesh Davar Me'ata. The whole point is that Loi B'Shamayim Hi, is the Brisker Rav. The whole point is that you're not supposed to get things any longer from Shamayim. So if we develop something because we have a new pshat and a taisvus, okay, that's for us. So the Brisker Rav says, Baruch HaKodesh, so what's Rashi bringing Baruch HaKodesh? What he should have said, says the Brisker Rav, is that we came to the Menat Spach, or we came to the Hashanas, somehow out of pilpul, like a Sneal ben Kenaz, which we'll learn about, right? He was machzir sater b'pilpul. But Ruach HaKodesh, where's Ruach HaKodesh coming? So that's the Brisker Rav's kasha, and he remains with the Tzarechiyut on Rashi. Why is Rashi bringing it down? The truth of the matter is, the Pashut shot, the Litvish shot in Rashi is that you're never going to come to a final Oisius LP Pilpul. It's not like there's any, like, why shouldn't there be a final Hey? Or a final Dalet? Why is there a final Mem and a final Nun? You're never going to come to the mitzvah of Arava. I'll be pilpul. We're going to come to the fact that you should take the Arava out of your lulav and walk around the Mizbeach 7 times. You're never going to come to such a thing. So Rashi had to say Ruach HaKodesh, but the Brisker Rav's kasha remains the same kasha, but still, if you can't come to it, you can't come to it. According to Rabbi Tzadok, the Brisker Rav, this is what he told, according to the Rabbi Tzadok, that you just told me, that das zu Ruach HaKodesh, so the Brisker Rav's kasha is Frankfurt, because Ruach HaKodesh doesn't mean like nevuah, something that comes from the outside in. Ruach HaKodesh, something that comes from the inside out. In other words, once the Torah has permeated me, so much so that I'm like a chelik of Torah, so now I'm zoche to Ruach HaKodesh. So like I said last week, Kasogas Haravid ala Rambam, the Ravid says that Kavapamim Marisi Ruach HaKodesh Moifia B'toich Beis Midrashenu. The Ravid, time of the Rishonim, he said he saw many times Ruach HaKodesh. I saw many times Ruach HaKodesh. You can see Ruach HaKodesh. You meet with Gedolim, sometimes you can see Ruach HaKodesh, but the Ruach HaKodesh is not that they get some kind of a nevuah. They're not looking up, they're looking down. They're finding it from within. And somehow within. By the way, I just want to say, I think we all have some Ruach HaKodesh here, because sometimes, just a tip between a close group here, that sometimes, somebody, I have this experience of, sometimes somebody asks you something, advice, let's say. I'm not talking about a halacha that you have to know the Taz of the Shach. Sometimes somebody asks you advice and you really don't know what to say, and then, if you think about it a little bit, and you meditate on it better than think about it, all of a sudden, like you can say something which makes a heck of a lot of sense. Like it's you can have siyata d'shmaya. That siyata d'shmaya is Ruach HaKodesh. This is Ruach HaKodesh. It's not limited to rabbis or to everybody can have Ruach HaKodesh.
Does it come from a Gilgal? I mean, it could have been printed on your neshama before.
The point is, it could be, I don't know, but it comes from inside.
Right.
So it comes out that Rashi is the Shitas Haikila. Rashi and Megillah, and Rashi and Sukkah Nudalad, and Rashi, all the places where he says Chazru v'yastu, Shachlu v'chazru v'yastu, Baruch HaKodesh, Rashi says it's the Ruach HaKodesh of Das. So it's very geschmack in Rashi. So that's what we've been learning until now. The Ruach HaKodesh of Das. And the difference between the Luchos Rishonos and Luchos Shniyos was the Luchos Shniyos, after the Shviras HaLuchos, had this element. The Shviras HaLuchos took away the clarity of Torah. Shviras HaLuchos. Obviously, when you break something into pieces, it's hard to reconstruct. So it was the Shviras HaLuchos which took away the clarity of Torah. But that brought out a Ruach HaKodesh, because now we have to reconstruct. And reconstructing is not only by putting together the pieces of the puzzle of the Shivrei Luchos, but reconstructing is also finding the answers from within, which is permissible. And even though, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Chafez, Afal that we don't have Nevuah any longer, Ruach HaKodesh we still have. So that's the importance of Ruach HaKodesh, which essentially came about through the Luchos Shniyos, which was a very, very important component of Torah Shel BaPeh. Agav, the Arizal says, for those that are interested in the mitzvah of Kiruv Rechokim L'Torah, so the Arizal says, B'Shem the Zohar, I couldn't find the Zohar, but I did find the Arizal. The Arizal says that when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchos, the pieces went all over the place. So those pieces became the Netzoitzes of Neshamas that have fallen away from Yiddishkeit throughout all the Doros. And, Al Pi Kabbalah and Al Pi Chasidus, one has to be Mal Netzotzos. So you got to pick up those pieces and put them back together again. So there's a sort of, can't call it a mitzvah, it's not one of the Taryag mitzvahs maybe, but the Indian is to find the pieces of the Luchos, and you can find them in the strangest places. You can find these neshamas in the strangest places, and they could be, I don't know how far they flew when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchos, but you can find them figuratively a million miles away.
Who picked them up?
Well, they picked them up, right? They picked them up because Luchos were Shivrei Luchos, Munachim Bar Nachas. So the Shivrei Luchos represent the Nitzotzos of the neshamas that fell away. So says the Arizal, and picking them up is to reconstruct this mosaica of the Luchos and create something. Now that mosaica, which of putting together the stones of Moses, right? The mosaica of the Luchos Shniyos has a mile over the Luchos Rishonos in a certain sense. I don't know, like would it be as there is a Rembrandt like that, I think, isn't there? The broken luchos put back together. But how does that look on the wall? If you would have the luchos rishonos and the luchos shniyos. I mean, it's not echad. The luchos rishonos. If we would see the luchos rishonos, which we never see, which we will never see. So l'chayr there's nisim near a mishneh of Rehem. Mem v'samach beluchos b'nesa yoim. It was just an unbelievable thing to see the luchos rishonos, charuz ala luchos. If we would see the luchos shniyos, wouldn't have all. If not the luchos, the shivrei luchos reconstructed. I don't know if those miracles would reappear. I don't know. How do I know? I don't know enough to know the answer to that question. But there has
how strong the glue is.
Right, but it has a beauty unto itself. It has a beauty unto itself of the different. They say that if a plate breaks and you glue it back together properly, it might break again, but it won't break in that place. In a certain way, it could be even stronger than the original composition of that plate. So there's something about the luchos shniyos, the luchos rishonos, and the shivrei luchos, which are put back together, which is the luchos after the struggle of being mala nitzotzos. So says the Arizal. So talking about, let's go a little bit further. Achroinos and the luchos achroinos. So we have three things here. We have the luchos rishonos, we have the shivrei luchos, which was the luchos rishonos broken up. There could be a matzav of the shivrei luchos being put back together again, which we can only imagine. And then there's luchos shniyos. So ba'achroinos shekibel b'yom HaKippurim. When do we get to luchos shniyos on Yom Kippur? This came Acharoisei Maisa, which is Oisei Maisa, that gave us the Luchos Shniyos, Egel. So after the Avera of the Egel, what happened was a new phenomenon was created. We started to forget Torah. Shazeh ba mishviras haluchos. Forgetting, the ability to forget Torah happened. Do you have the place? Where are we? What's your time?
329.
Shikha satorah. Shikha b'chlal. Shikha, forgetfulness. The ability to forget something, which we take for granted, certainly in my age. It's pashut that you forget things.
It's a gift.
It's
a tremendous gift to them.
This came with the Shviras Haluchos.
There's no shikha before Bichal?
There's no shikha. So the thing is like this, there was shikha. There was no shikha when Hashem created the world. When Adam Arishon and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, before Shin Chazal, Shikha came into the world. When we came to our Sinai, Vayichan Yisrael Neged Ahar, Yisha Echad, B'Lev Echad, we reached such a high madrega that there was no more Shikha. So we did the tikkun for a minute there of the chet of the Eitz Hadas. We did the tikkun, no shikha. So it comes out by the shviras haluchos, when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, shikha came back. Validei shikchas adivrei Torah, but this is a pretty bad thing, shikha. But because of the shikha of divrei Torah, this chadesh hapilpul, the Torah Shel BaPeh. That's when we have to start reconstructing ayidei Torah Shel BaPeh. Like we said about Bayarova, K'moishe Isa, meaning we have to draw upon Ruach HaKodesh. After by the Tanoim it says, by the Tanoim it says that by the Simchas HaBeis HaShoeva at Sukkot, when they were pouring the water, they were Moshech Ruach HaKodesh. It doesn't say it earlier by the Mishkan or by the Bais Rishoni, because Ruach HaKodesh, they felt a certain Ruach HaKodesh in the second Beis HaMikdash that they never felt before, Dafka by Shivas HaMayim. So it was only Alidei Shichas Hadivrei Torah Nischadish HaPilpul the Torah Shel BaPeh K'moishe Isa, it's a Gemara in Shmura, B'halacha Shenishtachu Shechzirim Asniel Mitoich Pilpulei. We mentioned before Asniel ben Kenaz. He was the shofet after Yoshua. And at this point, Klal Yisrael was forgetting Torah. They started forgetting Torah when Moshe Rabbeinu died. They also started forgetting Torah by the Shviras HaLuchos. It could be that the concept of Shichas HaTorah started by the Shviras HaLuchos, and when Moshe Rabbeinu died, we started losing it all. And by the time we got through Yoshua, up to Asniel ben Kenaz, so we started forgetting Torah big time. So the Torah says, the Tanakh says, the Gemara is Mefarish, that Asniel ben Kenaz was the son-in-law of Kalev ben Yefuneh. Yeah? So Asniel ben Kenaz was so smart that not to worry that we're forgetting Torah, but Echziro es ha-Torah bil-pilpulei. Asniel ben Kenaz could be Meshiv, all the halachas of the Torah, he was able to reconstruct it. So we shouldn't worry, says the Gemara. You don't have to worry about the Shichas HaTorah, because Asniel ben Kenaz b'chazru b'nishtach. So again, Ruach HaKodesh. This, says Rabbi Tzadok, would not have been the gift of Pilpul, the gift of reconstruction, the gift of that profound understanding in Ruach HaKodesh of Torah that came about through Asniel ben Kenaz, the Shivrei Luchos, if you will, was a deeper understanding than we even had before we forgot it. Because when you have to reconstruct something, you have to draw it from a deeper place. You know, by the way, it's Eitan Yehuda mentioned before, Shikha is a gift. It is a gift because Reb Nachman writes, Likutei Halachos, Reb Nachman Breslover writes that Chol Olam Kuloi Shikha is considered a bad thing. Always forgetting, I started to forget, I forgot, like it's a chasar to forget. We extol the person the other way. It says Reb Nachman, if you can't forget, you can never start fresh and you can never start new. It's such a deep thing, no? I mean, look at relationships. Can you imagine being married to somebody with a photographic memory? I am.
Me too.
It's like, in November 2003, you said, if you don't have shikha, says Rabbi Nachman, you can never do tshuva. Impossible to do tshuva if you don't have shikha. It's like amazing. Never start fresh. You never have hischadshus. You just can't get past anything if it's fresh in your mind. So the people are still fighting the civil war. It's a lashon, I remember when I became a rabbi, I was shul in Muncie, so it was more modern. I don't know what the right how to be magdir it, nor do they know how to be magdir it, but kind of like very right wing. But anyways, right-wing modern, but came the issue of saying the tefillah for the Medinat Yisrael. So yeshivas, they don't, yeshivas I learned that they didn't say the tefillah for Medinat Yisrael, obviously, but yeshivas, they just say the tefillah for Medinat Yisrael. We're not talking about chayalim, those are easy. We're talking about like the tefillah for, right, right, Avinu Sheba Shamayim. So the show wanted to say the tefillah for Medinat Yisrael, and I wasn't, so I voiced a little voice that, I don't know, maybe somebody else, maybe the Gabbai could say it. It's like I wasn't comfortable saying the tefillah. So anyways, I just remember recalling Rabbi Scheinberg also didn't say the tefillah for Medinat Yisrael. So I called him, I said, should I say the tefillah for the Medinat Yisrael? So he says, that's what he told me. You're still fighting the Civil War? It's finished already. She was finished already 30 years ago. Should they make the Medina? Should they make the Medina? Like it's go further. There's new issues to get upset about. That was his. The collective ability to be able to forget and forgive is Beseder, okay, that was the argument then. Now let's start something new already. We have new machlokes to worry about. You can't just stick with the old ones. But if you don't have shikha, you can never go further. So says Rabbi Nachman. So it comes out, that was perfect with Rabbi Tzadok, that the shikha was caused by the shviras haluchos. And that gave us the koach of tshuva. If there wouldn't be any shikha, I'm saying, if there wouldn't have been any shviras haluchos, there would be no shikha. And if there was no shikha, there wouldn't be any tshuva. So if there wouldn't be any tshuva, there wouldn't be any Yom Kippur. And if there wouldn't be any Yom Kippur, there wouldn't be any luchos shniyos. So it all the shikha is extremely important. Just gave us the ability to renew. It gave Moshe Rabbeinu the ability to renew. It gave Klal Yisrael the ability to renew. It even gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu the ability to renew. Forget about it. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Forget about it. Remember, right? Zachor, they're good things. Now it's, but what we haven't explained, we explained the Ma'ila of Shikha. We never explained why was it that let's just talk this out a little bit. Why was it that the shviras haluchos caused Shikha? Good thing, Ma'ila, we see the blessing in Shikha. But what's the kesher between shviras haluchos and Shikha? What do you say, Penny? What's the kesher between shviras haluchos? Why is dafka Shikha? Why does the shviras haluchos cause that we don't know pshat anymore? Why does the shviras haluchos cause physical weakness, other mental? We should all get ADHD because the luchos are broken. What's up with Shikha? Why Shikha? Let's just articulate it. What?
It's the nature of Torah that it's a single totality. That it's all one united concept. Ashur Tzadok and Tzadok Ashur Tzadok. So when there's a disruption in the attachment and the flow and the connections,
Okay.
It's disparate parts.
I think it's part of it.
It's also it's Torah Shel BaPeh in its transmission in a just an accurate way as opposed to a working way. There's no pilpul in the Luchos Rishos, right? It's just receiving. So there was no investment. So there's no investment, then forgetting is something that is easier.
So that's when we had why is the Shviras Haluchos?
And the Shviras Haluchos represents that breaking.
Meaning when we had the Luchos Rishonos.
So then that was a transmission. But once you break that, there was nothing to hold on to it.
Nothing to hold on to it with. Okay. By the way, just stop historically, all the great, the great writings, of the history of Klal Yisrael, which caused really which caused the continuation of Klal Yisrael, the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That's a writing that we wouldn't have Klal Yisrael as we know it if a Rebbe didn't write down the Mishnah. or for that matter, the Rabbi Yaacov Haber wrote down the Shulchan Aruch, or the Yad Knesset Agdola canonized the Tanakh. All those great writings always came after a Shviras Haluchos. They all came after a tragedy. They all came after. There was the Rabbi Yaacov Haber and all of the writings of the 16th century came after the Spanish expulsion, Portuguese expulsion of the Spanish Inquisition. The Rabbi Yehuda Nasi came after the Churban Beis Hamikdash of the Hadrian decrees, getting it back together. 100 years after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, we have to get it back together. It all comes after a Shviras Haluchos. It was always after a Shviras Haluchos. You look at even after the Holocaust, all of the different svarim that have been written came after the Holocaust. So, like, he understands that nobody says the Holocaust is good. Nobody says the Spanish Inquisition is good, or the pogroms that came out, or none of it is good. The Churban Beis Hamikdash wasn't good, but the positive thing that came out of it is that it had to be regrouped and re-established as a great writing, as a Torah Shel BaPeh. But so that's just historically we see this phenomenon. I've studied this. Almost every major quantum volume in Judaism, possibly true by the secular world also, but I don't know if they have a sense of tradition like we have. But
the breakthrough. In terms of the
breakthrough.
I'm thinking on a physical level also. The brain is our neshama, and there are synapses in the brain, and they're broken whenever there's a trauma. And you have to like you have a stroke, you have to relearn.
Right. Sometimes that's better, no?
Yeah.
There was a guy in my show in Muncie that had a terrible, it wasn't a stroke, he had a bit of a brain tumor and had it removed. And when he recuperated, all of a sudden he had a really good voice.
Wow.
He became a chazan. It was never able, he couldn't sing at all. No, half to do. Beautiful. It was just beautiful. Like it became beautiful. Couldn't sing. Never sang his life till he was like 60. And all of a sudden, whoa. Half of a fella. No, it was like this sometimes. Huh? Yeah, something.
Does it make sense that hardness, right? Hardness,
what?
Hardness has information on it. It can get fragmented. It can be like pieces are all over the place. So a person has also memory. Whatever a person sees, they always remember. It's always in their brain. They don't remember. Like, the stuff is there, but it's all jumbled up, so they can't put it together. Like the person doesn't forget. It's always in the mind. It's always in the brain.
So
you can't remember it. So also the luchos are there. It's all broken up.
It's fragmented.
It seems to be the same.
Right, like his synapses. But let me put it in it's really the same thing. Let me just put it in different words. The difference between, I spoke about this many times, the difference between the first luchos and the second luchos is clear. The whole difference was in the psolucha. Everything was pretty much the same. There's a few words that were different here and there, but the big difference is that the luchos rishonos were charus ala luchos. It was like part of the stone. It was totally engraved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the luchos. So therefore, since the whole thing was holy writ, it was written mamash by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there were nisim in the luchos rishonos that we spoke about a minute ago. That the Nira Mishnei Avraham read the same, went through and through, but you could see the same thing. This can only be possible by supernatural writing. The point is, though, that it was charus ala luchos. It was totally engraved in the luchos. The second luchos, the writing was on the luchos, not in the luchos. So when something is part and parcel, the situation of Klal Yisrael was the same as the situation of the luchos. Our madrega at Har Sinai by the luchos rishonos was the same madrega as the luchos rishonos, and that was charus ala luchos. So the Torah that we heard from Shamayim, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the luchos that Moshe Rabbeinu brought, it was completely thoroughly embedded and engraved in our neshamas. That was the madrega of Klal Yisrael, and the madrega we got there through Vayichan Yisrael Neged Ahar, and through complete nevuah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and kolel everything that you're saying here. that it was all very, very part and parcel to us and to our neshamas. The neshama and the guf was one, as the Sfar described. In that situation, it's impossible to have shikha. It's hardwired. It's not right. It's not like it's like part of us. It's not like a Windows computer. It's like a Mac. It's like chelik, right? All right, Tom. It's like a chelik of it. You can't break down. You can't forget. It doesn't. The only way you can lose the information is by throwing it into the sea or something.
Why does the malach?
Okay, let's get to the malach in a minute. But the once there was shviras haluchos, so what we lost with the shviras haluchos was this homogenation of Torah into the neshama. In other words, it was al haluchos, right? So luchos shnei luchos avonim karishonim. Chasavti al haluchos es advarim asher chasavti al haluchos harishonim asher shibarta. So v'chasafti al haluchos chazal or b'dayik in Shabbos Peiches, that the al haluchos is different than b'toich haluchos. There it's already possible to have shichra. So it comes out that the shviras haluchos was really, and this might be true on some level all through history. Every time all of these great, the Mishnah was redacted, the Tanakh was canonized. It went from b'toich to al. Sounds pretty sad. How you go from being hardwired and embedded to being sort of peripheral and on surface. But the good part about it is the psal l'cha, that we needed to reconstruct it. So yes, there was shichas haTorah. We lost that indelible aspect of Torah when the luchas were broken. But the Snil ben Kenaz syndrome of having to reconstruct actually brought us to a higher place. Torah Shel BaPeh, where every, like Rabbi Akiva figured out the lumdus and the omek behind every single mitzvah. We didn't know that by Bezman Matan Torah. We didn't know the omek hadavar. The only reason you need to know the omek hadavar, I would suggest, is in order to reconstruct it. Otherwise, right? You don't need to know the omeks. Rabbi Akiva, who was the first one to be B'tayers Asheretz, to explain why Asheretz is tummy. The reason he had to know that is because of the Chorban and the Hadrian decrees, and he came to let's. This was the yeshiva of Rabbi Akiva to let's really examine. It wasn't for everybody, by the way. It wasn't like the yeshiva I explained on Shabbos and Pirkei Avos Shir. It wasn't like the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel that this is the Messiah. We have a Messiah. Let's recapture it. It was. Let's try to understand the omek, so that we can reconstruct the mitzvah satir. That was the Pilpulei Shel Hevel, as Tosfos calls it, of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir, that they were Mataris Hasheretz B'Kuf Nun Drachin. What's the point? The point is let's understand the Omek of Tumah. So that's a big mila. What Rabbi Akiva understood, they didn't understand for Darius before him, because they didn't need to understand it. Rabbi Akiva had to draw upon something that up until that point nobody had to draw upon them. So as the Gemara Menachos, Moshe Rabbeinu looks at Rabbi Akiva with his nevuah, and he says, oh, he's got it better than I do. Why does he have it better than he does? Because it wasn't the delivery. It was that struggle and that attachment that Dove's talking about, attachment that you have from having to struggle. So a couple more lines here. So I'm saying the same thing in a lot of different ways, but I just wanted to remember this is the real where we are. Ayidei shichas hadivrei Torah dischadish hapilpul the Torah Shel BaPeh. K'vayishisa b'halacha shnishtachu she'echzirim asniel mitoich pilpulai. Al kein nemar. Dibrais achraynos b'mishnah Torah shomer Moshe mipi atzmai. That the second set of, again, we don't know that the first luchos were Parshas Yisroi and the second luchos were Parshas Veschanim, but that's the way Chazal understood it. The difference. Isn't it interesting? What's the difference? Let me just make one more point here about this. One of the main differences between luchos Rishonos and luchos Shniyos? Luchos Rishonos, it said Zachar es Yom HaShabbos. Zachar es Yom HaShabbos. In the Luchos Shniyos it says Shamar. Comes Chazal and they say Shamar v'Zachar b'Dibur Echad. How do you change the mitzvah of Shabbos? So outskalicht, Zachar v'Shamar. But the Luchos Rishonim said Zachar. Zachar is Yom HaShabbos. Because the Zechira in the Luchos Rishonos was hardwired into the Luchos. So there was nothing to be Shamar. Understand? There was nothing to be Shamar. What do you have to guard yourself from? It's there. You don't have to worry about doing something wrong. You're not going to forget it. So what do you have to do? Just access your memory. It's there. Zachar is Yom HaShabbos. After the Shviras HaLuchos, where there was no longer any Zechira, so now Moshe Rabbeinu says, and already Moshe was already B'Dibur Echad, now Moshe Rabbeinu says in Parshas V'Eschanan Shamar, right? You got to be careful to watch the Shabbos.
I apologize, but I feel smallish.
I know I feel so opposite, because what do you have to remember if you can't forget?
Yeah, just keep it.
It means to access your memory.
Just keep it. Show me.
Zohar. Keep it in the front of your mind. It's there. The main point I'm not making is not Zohar. The main point I'm making is that you don't need Shamar. Shamar is not possible if there's no Shichcha. You only have to guard something if you stand the chance of losing it. If you don't lose it, you can't lose something, right? Everyone's guarding the items in your house. You don't have to guard your house. Nobody's going to pick up in the middle of the night, pick up your house. You can't lose it. It's the metaltalin that you have to be careful about. So the Shabbos became a gather of metaltalin by the Luchos Shniyos Zachar Echad. Metaltalin. Somebody could pick them up and take them away. As happened throughout history, the Shabbos became something which is no longer hardwired to many. Some people it was.
Look at the difference between the way Moshe was nifter and the way Rabbi Akiva was nifter. It's completely, totally the opposite. So it means that it's hard. It's hard, but he gets more merit for it.
Amazing observation. Moshe Rabbeinu nobody even knows.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Nemar Dibur Zachredis v'Mishnah Torah Shomer Moshe Mipi Atzmai Yikom Makom U'Mechlal Torah Shel BaPeh. Even though it was Moshe Rabbeinu talking in Sefer Dvarim, nevertheless it's Mipi Atzmai. It's still called Torah Shel BaPeh. Milvad Shegufei HaTorah Kibul Kfar Bahar Sinai Mipi Hashem Gam Advarim Atzmam. Not just that Moshe Rabbeinu was retelling the story of Har Sinai in Sefer Dvarim. Advarim Atzmam. The words of Moshe Rabbeinu have the same din of Torah. It's not four chumashim, it's 5 chumashim. Gam advarim atzvot sheyatzu bipi atzvot lo nemer ben vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. Doesn't say that in Sefer Dvarim. Mikodim gam zeh Torah Shel BaKtzav. But it's coming from a different place to answer the Briskerov's kasha. Ruach HaKodesh is coming from here, not coming from there. Rabbi Tzadok.
Could you say that reconstruction that takes place after is not just on a Chazal's the Mishnah and but a new something positive that happens? Would you say that was a similar idea?
What do you mean?
You were trying to say that throughout history we see that the Mishnah was written on we see the positiveness, so to speak, of that Shviras HaLuchos happened and something positive. I'm wondering if you could say that similar idea. If we see something positive happening after something, so to speak, something after Shvir happens, not necessarily on the written, what's written, but just in terms of
it wouldn't have happened if not for that Shvir. Look, every positive thing, State of Israel, every positive thing happened after tragedies. I don't say tragedy is good. Let's do another Holocaust. We need some more positive things. Nobody wants that. But the fact of the matter is, if it's oiskedutz, you see, we had a lot of siyata d'shvaya like after the Holocaust. It was just amazing Renaissance of Sfar, country, yeshivas in America, everything. I mean, it was like a Renaissance. It was the same. Chazal say a good example that after the Babel, so Noah planted a tree, and one day he got drunk. Like he planted,
So fast.
Yeah, so fast. Like he planted it. The Chazal say he planted like he planted it. The godal and the grapes came out, and the grapes got aged, and it turned into wine, and he drank it, and it like unbelievable, like the amount of speed of the wine. So the pshat is the Chazal say that after a tragedy, especially of that type of magnitude, whatever you plant, whatever you do will be. The taina on Noach was, what are you making? What are you planting a vineyard for? Why don't you build a yeshiva or something? Build a Beis HaMikdash. That's what he should have done. He should have built the Beis HaMikdash. So says the Zohar. He could have built it right then. Instead, they built the Migdal Bavel. But what he could have done is he could have started the Beis HaMikdash, and a miracle would have happened. It would have worked. So you got to chop the energy of after a crisis, the post-crisis energy. You have to chop it. That's so. I think that Gedolei Hadar chopped this after World War, not only after World War II, even after World War I. I think Gedolei chopped that this is a Zman Mukhshar to do something great. A lot of great things happen. And there's constantly, maybe not of that magnitude, but there's constantly crises that are going on. There are opportunities, really.
Maybe that's a nechama, probably an individual and a national level, to make something happen after a...
That's where we have to concentrate. So Shabbos Nachamu comes right after Tisha B'Av, yeah?
The liberal politicians in the United States have said that every disaster, every tragedy is an opportunity for them.
It's the derech of the world. I'm a liberal politics. I think Abraham Lincoln spoke about this. So he spoke about after the Civil War, after the emancipation of the South, the whole business. He said that this is an opportunity. That's what he said in his speeches.
Rabbi Nachman says when things are going when things are going well, Hashem is there. When things are going bad, He's here.
Very nice. Same thing.
Yes, same thing.